The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in strong support of H.R. 5497, the Burma Act of 2022, which I have introduced alongside Representative Steve Shabbat, the ranking member of the Asia Subcommittee, who I want to thank for working in a bipartisan way. And I also want to thank Foreign Affairs ranking member Michael McCall for working with me in a bipartisan way on this very important and very timely bill. Mr. Speaker, democracy is under severe strain across the globe, and the current crisis in Burma is a stark reminder of this challenge. It has been just over a year since the Burmese military staged an illegal and illegitimate coup d'etat, seizing control of the Union government and detaining a broad cross-section of democratically elected civilian leaders. As the military upended Burma's fragile transition to democracy, it began a widespread suppression of fundamental freedoms. Over the past 14 months, the military's brutal and senseless violence has resulted in more than 1,700 people killed, including over 100 children. Thousands have been unjustly detained, and nearly 500,000 people have been displaced by the military's violence. Congress cannot and must not stand idly by as the military brutally kills its people. As the war in Ukraine has reminded us, America must stand up with freedom-loving people everywhere. The Burmese people have courageously resisted the military's repression and violence. They have organized a civil disobedience movement to erode the military's ability to govern. And a shadow government, the National Unity Government, has emerged to restore democratic civilian rule. All they're asking of us is that the world come to their aid and their cause. The Biden administration has taken critical steps to stand with the Burmese people. And I want to commend Secretary Blinken's formal determination last month that the Burmese military committed genocide and crimes against humanity against Rohingyas, something that was long overdue and which I advocated for in this current bill. But now it's Congress' turn to act. The important resolutions and statements of condemnation and letters of solidarity this body has sent over the past 14 months are important, but not sufficient. The people of Burma need us to do more. Frankly, the Burmese military's gross abuses demand that we do more. H.R. 5497 is a comprehensive, bipartisan bill that holds the Burmese military accountable through targeted sanctions, puts pressure on the junta by urging greater action at the United Nations, and calling for a special coordinator for Burmese democracy. It authorizes humanitarian assistance for the hundreds of thousands of Burmese citizens that have been internally displaced or fled across the border. And it calls on the State Department to document the genocide and the crimes against humanity committed against Rohingyas and other Burmese ethnic minorities. The same military leaders which perpetuated a genocide against Rohingya are now using the same tactics to unleash unprecedented bloodshed across the entire country. So we must end the impunity of the Burmese military and make it harder for it to enact its brutality. And to every member of the Burmese ruling elite that does not support the pathway taken by General Min Aung Hlaing, let me say to you loud and clear, now is the time for you to think about your country's future and defect. Defect. Because the Burmese people and the international community will remember which side you stood on. The economic and diplomatic pressure that this bill applies is essential to changing the junta's calculus and forcing it to the negotiating table. By passing this legislation, we will take a meaningful step not just to stand up with the Burmese people, but also to help bring this crisis to an end. Therefore, before this bill becomes law, I look forward to working with my colleagues in a bipartisan way to refine the sanctions in this bill so that they remain relevant and effective. Thus, I urge my colleagues to support this measure so that we can move it one step closer to the President's desk. With that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.